It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully you're not caught up in that traffic jam. I think it's on I-26. Yeah, a lot to get to this morning. Thank you for joining me on Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mika Gadsden. That feels like my old podcast intro. A lot to get to this morning. Hey, good morning, Justin. Yeah. Make sure y'all show y'all home training. If you in the chat on Twitch, say good morning. I'm gonna hop over to Facebook on my phone, and if you over there, I know yesterday my stream was cut off because I was playing the hell out of some HBO movie. So yeah, show your home training off. Say good morning. Hey, Captain Glitter. Good morning. I'm gonna see what I got going on over on Facebook. I feel like Facebook is so neglected. So yeah, hopefully folks is able to tune in. Look at that, I can hear myself. Yeah, so I'll have that open a little bit. I'll have that open a little bit so I can check the chat as I go. A lot to get to. Let's just get into it. First of all, it's what we call what we up north we call brick. It's brick outside, y'all. I like it. Let me go ahead and switch to my main thing. Yeah, right now, shout out Charleston weather. It's 45 degrees, feels like 39. Yo, yesterday was like the best day ever. What up, thoughtful _ lit on Twitch. Hey, Nicole. It is Jersey weather, right? Because we don't get no spring here. Charleston springs are notoriously like psych. It's usually like a couple of nice brisk days and then just like, we're gonna give you this oppressive humidity, right? Right. So 45 degrees. I ain't mad. Y'all know I got a lifetime supply of hoodies. So unseasonably cool today, according to Charleston weather. Today's forecast, high of 66. I thought it was gonna be 68. Nah, I'm gonna enjoy this weather. Please. I'm gonna be bundled up. All right, so that's the weather. And let me see with what I wanted to. So okay, let me just go ahead and switch to the Post and Courier real quick. A lot to get to. I've got like not even just Jared, you gonna kill me. I've got like Jared and Taylor Hickman tabs on tabs, just up in different browsers, like open, whatever. But it's a lot to get to. I titled today's live stream, my biggest law enforcement mistake, because before I am critical of local leadership here, because I'm going to be critical of local leadership here, I want to acknowledge that I'm critical from the standpoint of I've made similar mistakes, or I've seen things kind of fall flat. I've seen poor execution, right? I've seen what that looks like in terms of organizing. I've fallen on my face countless times, and I'm not doing this to be self-deprecating. I'm not doing this to be self-effacing for effect. I'm doing this because I believe transparency is important. I am a person who believes that you should, let me turn this down just a little bit. I'm a person that believes that you should honor and respect human frailty. Understand that people don't always show up, completely fully formed in their politics, especially. And so I titled today's live stream my biggest law enforcement mistake. And I'm going to lead into some mistakes that I think that we're making here locally that we have to change. And we have to change. And if you're gonna be appointed, or if the people are gonna make you the people's champ, or the people have designated you or crowned you to be a leader, you have to, there's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot that comes with that leadership, okay? So before I get into that, I just want to take a look at our news here in Charleston. So this is the digital edition of our local paper. Make sure you whip out that library card and use your news bank to access local news if you can. So this is what we see right here. At stake as much as 34 million. Private schools ask judge to bypass racist laws with looming deadline for federal funds. Jesus. Gonna definitely do a deep dive here. There's a lot going on with public ed right now. Shout out to Professor John Hill, who used to be at USC, who's now in Illinois. We got some Illinois news to get to today too. Shout out Candace Livingston, formerly of this area, formerly a Hellraiser down here with us last summer. A brilliant woman who's doing her thing in Illinois with John Hill. There's a lot going on with education that I'm going to dedicate a whole show to public education, to the privatization efforts and whatnot. So I'm just reading the headlines today, not just mentioning, not diving deep. All right. Hate crime legislation. This is something we're watching. Hate crime legislation is advancing in the South Carolina Senate. So we're going to take a look at that. Teachers getting more pay. So let's go ahead and flip to the front page of the paper. Now, I said the front page, I was clearly reading this about the former attorney, the U.S. attorney nominated for utility chairman, this whole Santee thing, right? McMaster just did this. I read this because I wanted to know what Mr. McCoy was up to, because of his role in last year's enforcement of laws around the protests that took place here in Charleston and in Columbia. So I fell down this whole Peter McCoy rabbit hole, if you will. But let me go to the front page. Let me see if I can go back to the front page. Okay. Of course, right? That's not the front page. All right. So here we go. I'm going to increase the view a little bit. Here we go. All right. So top, we have national news here regarding policing laws. That's what today's show is all about, policing laws and how we can better advocate for not just reform, right? We're talking about abolition. We're talking about imagining communities, imagining a place, a city, a state where, we imagine public safety different. A lot of people like to get tripped up on defund the police. Y'all think everything controversial, especially if you identify as liberal and you're very or centrist or moderate. Defund the police sounds really scary to you, but to me it's always been a bad faith argument, because if you really understand or try to understand abolitionist politics and abolitionist sentiment and messaging around this issue, it's not about lawlessness, it's not about anarchy and chaos, it's about making sure that we have public safety departments, measures, tools in place, things in place, mechanisms in place to respond to things like mental health crises, like disruptive students in schools. So the place where we continually see cops answering a call that should be answered by a counselor, social worker, mental health professional, nurse, firefighter, EMT. In times where we should be seeing these other departments responding, we're seeing cops respond, and the only tool or their favorite tool seems to be a motherfucking gun, right? So I don't know how much clearer we need to see. I don't know if this year, to me, I didn't need last year. I didn't need the whole world marching in honor of George Floyd. I'm in this body, right? I was born in 1980, so that means I was around to see Rodney King. I was around to see countless incidents. I don't even want to rattle them all off. Countless incidents of police brutality and this gratuitous use of force, right? So when we talk about defunding the police, we're talking about, hey, your budget is bananas, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars in some instances, right? And yet these services, like these other places at public education, social programs, go severely underfunded. Look at our Parks and Rec here in Charleston and compare that to our police budget, and they're not preventing crime, right? They're just not. All right, so that's national news that's going to trickle down here into our discussion. There's a big, of course, feel-good story in the middle of the paper about prom season, tough year. Teachers on double duty get extra pay. All right, that's a top story above the fold. Hate crime legislation, again, advancing. We're not going to get into that today, but I just wanted to read that off so you know what's on the headline. Now, this is huge right here. This is huge. So I'm going to be tracking this. Once I hop offline, I'm going to be, I think I'm going to reach out to, hey, Paul, if you're watching. I don't know if Paul Bowers is watching. Hey, Paul. But I might be reaching out to you, Paul, to talk about this, because of, the last administration was very just incompetent. There are delays with the census. We already saw all the chicanery around the census, right? We saw all of the things that were created to slow down the census, to add a fraudulent question about immigration status. We saw all these things happening to make sure that people didn't participate in the census, right? And so, of course, inevitably we have delays that are impacting us here at the local level. So census delays create Charleston election dilemma. Basically, the city council is deciding whether or not to use old maps, because right now we should have had 10 years worth of new data to draw redistrict, right. Hopefully we would hope that they would do it fairly, but you know how it go with all these business interests and all this development going on in Charleston. I doubt that the redistricting would be a separate issue. I'm sure that I'd have a whole live stream dedicated to, but basically they're deciding whether or not to wait and postpone elections until they get the new data from the most recent census, or keep moving with this next election, move forward with the old data that's over 10 years old, right? So that's something to watch, because that's going to have huge implications, especially as key races are gearing up as we speak, right? I don't need to say no more. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Key races in city council, key races everywhere throughout the state. And even though this is a red state, we stand to make tremendous strides in a number of areas. So that's something to watch. All right, I'm going to close out this paper, and I'm going to give y'all what y'all wanted from last time. The other day, she made news.
We're seeing it now with DC statehood. DC wouldn't even qualify as a singular congressional district, and here they are. They want the power.
So Nancy Mace is often wrong loud in public at a mic, right? And this is a great place to freeze frame. I wish I could zoom in for y'all. I'm gonna rewind that. So she's arguing. Nancy Mace the other day made headlines because she argued against DC statehood. And then I'm gonna tell you this was a L, and she knows this. I want to know what her staff talked about after this, because you should have had talking points prepared. I'm sure these were prepared talking points, but let's play it from the top again.
Certified. We're seeing it now with DC statehood. DC wouldn't even qualify as a singular congressional district, and here they are. They want the power and the authority of being an entire state in the United States.
And I hope y'all know this is rap. Thank you, Evelyn. Does she know it? She might not. I would think her staff do. Like, you got Liz Cheney's comms director, so that's creme de la creme comms. I'm assuming that some of the other highfalutin GOP members of Congress and whatnot gifted you some capable, competent staff, since they grooming you to be the next face, the next moderate face, since they grooming you to, she's going to the Liz Cheney school of I'm a rational member of the GOP. You would think she would be gifted some staff members that would do their due diligence, but obviously Nancy Mace is going to Nancy Mace, right? So she made she made that statement, and of course Twitter got on her ass in a way that, like, just plainly, like this. I love this tweet right here from Brian Taylor Cohen. See that woman right behind Nancy Mace? That's Liz Cheney, whose entire state of Wyoming has less residents, 578,000, than Washington, D.C., 700,000. And there's a number of reasons why DC should have statehood. A lot of the arguments against DC statehood are just cloaked in racial animus. When this city was truly Chocolate City, they wasn't even thinking about this. When it was truly Chocolate City, oh no, you Negroes can't control your own destiny. You can't control your own destiny, right? When it was truly Chocolate City, now it's gentrified like crazy, right? Evelyn, you said on Twitch, I think lying about stuff is the GOP playbook. Yeah, no, but she's not. I get you, but that was a mistake that could be fact checked instantly. So I think this was an unforced error. I hear you though. They do lie. It's like if you ever like read the book Manchurian Candidate or watch the film, the old black and white film, shout out Angela Lansbury, like how like the senator, what's his name, he just keeps repeating the same fraudulent claim over and over, how many communists there are, sitting communists in the Senate, you know, like just keep you just say the wrong number over and over and over again, right? I know it's petty, but one of these things is not like the other. You read my mind. It ain't petty. I tried to stop. I ain't gonna say no more. I ain't gonna say Jessica. Oh God. And shout out Jessica for thank you so much for increasing my access to news. Shout out Jessica, thank you. I'm not gonna spill my business out in the street just yet, but thank you. I'll say it in a second. But yeah, I didn't want to be petty about her again, but yeah, she's wrong. And also she got the Cadillac of fact check. She got the Daniel Dale treatment, and so they did a whole article on it here. I was hoping he did a video on it, but I didn't see it. It was just a piece that he wrote about like why Nancy Mace was so wrong, right? So that's that. I'm going to give y'all read me out in front because a lot of people were asking about that the other day. All right, I'm going to close that out. Let's see right here. So before I get here, no. I don't even want
Developing now.
I don't want to get here yet. This is where I was going to go into how I titled the live stream. Let me make sure all my tabs are up. All right. Yeah. Yep, y'all. I was everywhere. I hope I was everywhere today. Cool. All right, we might jump into it. So let me see. I am going to go into, all right, this is my history, right? Boom. All right, so I'm going to go into this story right here that I just exit out of. The local activists arrested over Sunday protest. So this was like news here locally. And I want to preface it. Let me switch my camera view real quick. I want to preface this by saying again that this is not, it's not personal. People feel how they feel though, so I get that. But it's not really personal. I know I can get a little spicy. Good morning. Hey Jazz. Let me just start off by saying this. I said this to Candace last night on the phone. I hollered at Candace out there in Illinois. You know, I said one of the biggest mistakes I made from last year regarding law enforcement was being wishy-washy, espousing and identifying with abolitionist politics and points of views and owning abolitionist ideology. You know, just really being closer to the abolitionist spectrum than I am to a reform spectrum, right? I was a little wishy-washy last year, so much so that y'all saw me conduct an interview with Christian Graziano. And when I tell y'all I debated with myself, I debated, and I'm like, Mika, if you have this woman on your platform, what signal does it send? Because I do not work with the police. I don't organize with the police. I don't do food drives. If the police is there, I'm out. Like that's something y'all can hold me to, especially in more recent years. I don't organize with the police. I don't listen to the police. You know, I don't let them dictate, you know, what we do, how we organize. I don't do that, right? And so I knew that about me, but then I said, you know what, I'm going to have an interview with Sarah Graziano because of the ICE implications, right? Like how Al Cannon to me was just, he had to go. Because I had covered the immigration crisis when I was on OM Radio, I dedicated 2 shows to it, invited multiple voices from the Latinx community from North Carolina and South Carolina to talk about what's going on here, what was going on at Al Cannon, impacting you know, not just Spanish speaking or immigrants from and asylum seekers from Spanish speaking countries, but immigrants from all over, folks seeking asylum from all over, including those from Africa and from other just parts of the globe that we just don't necessarily think about as asylum seekers, right? And covering that close up and seeing that and seeing how Al Cannon's his contract with ICE was just such a huge national story. I felt like, okay, we got to get this man out here. We got to get people mobilized. We got to let people know what's going on. Also, too, to Kristen's credit, Kristen had done a lot of work trying to get with me. People have tried to introduce me to Kristen. People tried to get me to sit with Kristen, and I resisted it. And I wanted to hear and listen, but not really engage, right? And I've always had this relationship with Kristen when she was a candidate, and and all of that. But I said, you know what, let me just have her on the platform and let me just interview her. It was a big mistake, because what I learned really quickly is, like, with politicians especially, but specifically with law enforcement, when you do that, they look to weaponize their proximity to you. And sometimes they even misconstrue or mischaracterize a sit down, a conversation, a phone call. They can mischaracterize that as allyship, as being someone who's a friend. I did acknowledge Kristen's win in the election with a private text message because of the history she made, because of the milestone of the moment. I don't regret that at all. The history she made, like, we're not going to erase that, right? We're not going to erase her accomplishment, right? LGBTQ woman, yada yada yada. Just unseating somebody who's been in there damn near as long as I've been alive, right? But I did not make sure that I defined the dynamics of our engagement well enough, to the point. So I told Kristen and I told everyone I was going to be critical once she's in office. Like, I promised her that, and I followed through on that promise when we started seeing things like Jamal Sutherland losing his life while in custody at Al Cannon, right? So what happened was somebody didn't manage their expectations. It wasn't me. But I think there was an expectation that I show up and I be compliant. I think that what the expectation was, that I show up and that I'd be a reasonable person, a rational person to listen. And I don't center cops. I don't center law enforcement. I'm not in community with law enforcement. We're at opposite ends of the spectrum. I needed to get Al Cannon out, but I could have done that without having that interview. I hope that makes sense. Anybody just drop that in the chat if that makes sense anywhere. I don't know, right? So that was my rationale, but that was a mistake, because I think what I also do, I signal to other organizers perhaps too, that you can have dialogue with police. You can't. And I should have stood firm on my personal rule, which is you just don't have that conversation. And then what I got was a lot of pushback from people when I would kind of reiterate, like, this is why you don't talk to the cops. You can't talk to the cops. Because they like to take their proximity to you and, like, they'll weaponize it later. Weaponize it how, Mika? They weaponize it like they'll put your name in a statement saying, I've assembled a coalition of X, Y, and Z, and I've assembled a group of community organizers, Black and Latino. Like, they check off all the boxes and they'll put your name in there, and then they'll start saying, hey, we're reforming things, we're changing things, and part of the facade is you in that coalition. It's giving off the appearance of change. Just because you got a rainbow coalition of voices behind you, it's to help with that that propaganda, if you will, in terms of real reform and change, right? And I definitely was never going to be part of that, but talking to her on my platform might have communicated that, right? Even though I felt I was firm, I can't avoid that, right? Right. And Jazz, to your question on Twitch, Jazz is asking in Twitch, should our leadership talk to them? No. After a Million Man, the sergeant, no, definitely jokingly asked me to organize the department. Yeah, that was funny. But no, this is the thing. So the pushback I got from other organizers on one heated debate on the phone was, well, how are you supposed to talk to them if you're not at the table? You don't go to their table. Their table's not designed for justice. The table will never be designed for justice. The table is built on inequity. The table is built on inequality. And as I said since having a live stream since Sunday, that policing is inherently racist. Policing is inherently built on white supremacy. Literal slave patrols emerged from the Charleston area, from the Carolina colonies, right? We went through the origins of policing, right? We understand that. And its current mutation, current form is just this insidious form. This, I'm gonna call it a mutation again, a mutation of those racist white supremacist practices that emerged from policing black bodies because we were property, right? Police protect property, right? They don't prevent crime. This is not Minority Report. We just make sure, like, there's no precogs and ain't nobody like, oh, I can see that first degree murder. No, they don't prevent crime, right? And more police having more tools, more guns, more tasers it's not a diversion, right? It doesn't stop crime. It doesn't prevent it, right? They're there to protect property. That's why the police officer pulled me aside at a rally that I was not a leader of. It was why the police pulled me aside and was like, King Street is off limits. Why King Street, not Avondale, not the brewery, right? Not the breweries, not West Ashley, right? Not the East Side, right? Not Romney. King Street is off limits because of the business interests that were very vocal, right? So police protect property. Law enforcement is not something that you can find common ground on. When you have abolitionist views, you have to seek out measures, and you can seek out measures that don't involve you talking to the police. That you wonder why I'm very vocal about local business interests, business owners leveraging their voice, right? Because the city, the crown jewel is the tourism district and the tourism industries that keep this city solvent, right? I'm asking that these business owners start doing more than just lip service and providing programmatic solutions to a structural and societal issue, right? Don't give me more representation and visibility at your festivals. How do you stand up and show up for me again in front of elected officials, whether it's local, whether it's statewide? How do you show up for me and my black body, right? And advocate for more funds to be put in Parks and Rec, more funds to go to schools, more school programs, more funds to go to, to fund some of these commissions that you launch, right? That are purportedly about solving racial inequity and racial conciliation, right? How about you fund that commission as opposed to continuously adding more funds to law enforcement, right? Like, so that's why I'm so vocal about engaging them. I'm also very vocal, y'all, about engaging our lawmakers. Our lawmakers have to help out, right? So we can't have lawmakers like how when Wendell Gilliard proposed legislation years ago that would make it a misdemeanor if you sag your pants at school. So we already had disturbing schools law, right? So we already had that trash ass. We still have it, but I guess the worst version of it, if you want to say that, we had disturbing schools laws. We already said that if you mouth off and a teacher wants to dismiss you, that you can basically be in the criminal justice system. Because you had a bad day or you were ill-equipped to handle emotional stress at school and you're a kid going through all these hormonal changes, oh, well, you're going to go and you're going to be charged with a misdemeanor or something else, right? So you already had that. What's up, new follower? You already had that. So on top of that, you had lawmakers like Wendell Gilliard was like, yo, I'm going to propose this ordinance or this law that makes it, you get fined if you sag your pants at school, right? And he got a lot of pushback, and then it went away. I think it went away. Yeah. And got a lot of pushback from everybody, right? So it's about engaging lawmakers like that. Like, hey, you made a misstep here. How do we craft legislation that's actually not so pro-police, but that's pro-social, pro-safety net, pro-social services, pro-counseling, pro-resource, right? How do you lobby your lawmakers to do that and stop thinking that law enforcement is a panacea for our issues, right? So you can lobby lawmakers, you can lobby business interests. You don't have to work with the police to bring about change, right? So that's my stance. Let me hop into the chat on Twitch and see what's going on. Evelyn, you said, I thought you were firm and clear in your interview. Yeah, but I think Evelyn, me too. Me too. but I regret it. It was one of my biggest regrets of 2020, right? Hey, is it Barnes? What is it? Barnes Emma 30? Hey, thanks for following. Jessica, you said they don't generally determine their own budget though. Jessica, you bugging my phone? You bugging my phone? Because we literally had this conversation last night, Jessica. This is crazy. You said in the chat on Twitch, they don't generally determine their own budget though. They can't make recommendations. They are an arm of local government. Right. Cut out the middleman and apply pressure at the top. You must be, we here. You a real one. Absolutely. And this is what we talked about last night. Me and Candace were talking about last night very briefly, was like, they don't even control their own budgets. So we don't even need to be like, we're going, and they'll give y'all, but they'll give organizers the false choice that you either meet with us or you're not going to get anything. And it's like, no, I don't have to meet with you. You not, to quote Evelyn Lozada, you a non-motherfucking factor. Like in terms of actually trying to like neutralize their power. Right? Like there are other ways around them, but they do that. And so they'll convene these panels, and I'm going to get into it. So I'm trying to be I'm really trying to do this the right way. I'm trying to do right by our people, do right by our local people who are out here trying to move and shake tables and whatnot. But I got to call it out when I see it. We can't keep moving in a way. This is why I like, every decision I made, even with the Christian Graziano thing, I did consult people. Like I kind of got, if I didn't consult a person, I consulted a fucking book. Y'all know I do that. If I didn't consult a person, I consulted a fucking book or scholarship. And definitely the police audit, right? I still go back to the police audit because it still gives me things to work with in terms of where our problems were at the time of that audit and where we are currently, right? What's worse, what's the same, what's improving, right? And I just need to know that these younger organizers are consulting something other than emotion and just their immediate circle of constant like affirmation within your own circle. I you know what I mean? Like that's why I have a lot of people that around me who I disagree with a lot, and it's tough. It's not fun, but through conflict is not inherently negative. Conflict can be generative, right? So I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna just oh my god, I gotta hurry up. It's already 8:00. All right, let me hurry up.
Now
I already know I'm going till 9. Let me just go.
Developing now, a black activist leader of the Low Country arrested. Charleston County Sheriff's Office says 31-year-old Justin Hunt was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and the violation of a permit. This comes from a group assembling Sunday ahead of Derek's show.
So this is my first issue. So what was just reported, and this is reported also in the Post and Courier as well, right? A lot of news outlets covered this, and this is what they wanted to do. So knowing that this week was going to be all eyes on Charleston, all eyes on protesters, all eyes on people who are giving voice to this whole criminal justice abolition or reformist debate, there had to be a presence of mind like, hey, this week is going to matter. How do we show up? So the first mistake I think local leadership made was, if you're going to have a rally or an action, if you're going to have a planned action without a permit, you have to have a very candid conversation with all those present about the inherent risks of doing that, so people know what they're signing up for. And I'm not going to assume that they didn't do that. I'm going to assume that they did do that. That being said, during the actual action, there was live footage from organizers claiming to lead the action. So you already put yourself on tape saying that you're the leader and organizer of the action, right? Also, there was chatter on the radio, right? On the police radio, and you confirmed the chatter was about you. Basically, I feel like the organizers, and I'm gonna speak directly about Justin. I feel like Justin implicated himself several times on social media, already knowing that the assembly was problematic and might have a repercussion, knowing that this city, I think my exact text to another organizer was, they not gonna let y'all take over this city this time. Y'all gotta be strategic, right? I think that's what I said to someone else, right? And then to see, it wasn't any really, to me, it wasn't any strategy. So there was a risk there, especially if you go out on a limb. And now some people will say, well, that's what a leader does. A leader goes out there and assumes responsibility. A leader does not willingly walk into a law enforcement situation. And also too, there's a risk of opening other people up to increased policing and increased brutality from law enforcement. If you know you're going to be sidestepping a law and ordinance, you have to understand, like, that's going to come with a number, like a level of risk. And I'm not saying that, hey, we got to be risk averse. I'm not saying that. If you're planning an action that's all like, all gas, no brake, all right. Let's do it. If you're doing an action that's all gas, no brake, that's one thing. I don't think this was all gas, no brake. I don't think that's what that was about. Because if that was what this is about, then I think there would have been a bigger conversation around what legal aid looks like beforehand, right? Because I'm gonna just let y'all know that, like, when with the Friends of Gadsden Creek, we bout it. Me and a couple of people in there, we bout it. Like, we will go to jail behind that creek. We will protect that housing project area. We will protect that creek, that 4 acres, and them black people. Oh, best believe my first charge is going to be behind Gadsden Creek, if any, right? So, like, there is, like, but there's going to be a plan behind that, right? There's going to be a plan in place before that happens. It won't just be, if it happens, it happens, right? Because you have to take care of people who follow your lead, if that makes sense, right? I know, let me go.
Chauvin's murder trial verdict in the death of George Floyd. We're going out now live to News 2's Riley Benson, who's joining us from downtown, where he's been...
I'm not gonna win no fans with this one. If y'all didn't know, I blocked Pastor Dixon on Facebook years ago because his friend Meryl Chapman, a white woman, physically accosted me in my workplace, and called me all types of racist tropes. And even after that incident got so much attention and ran me off social media for a good bit, he still sided with her and decided to stand with her. And so I'm not a fan of Pastor Dixon. If you didn't know that by now, I'm just letting y'all know that. So sorry for those who are on Facebook. I know. It's not a grudge. It's more like, this don't feel right. This don't feel like leadership to me. And as a black woman, see a black man take a white woman's side. And when I had multiple witnesses, tell you how this white woman tried to assault me, and you still bang with her after, you ain't got no credibility with me. But here we go, trotting them out again.
Following this developing story, and Riley, I understand you do have some new information today.
Sorry, Facebook. That's just my opinion. Don't at me.
Yeah, good afternoon, Hannah. This is obviously still a developing story. What we do know is that Mr. Hunt was arrested, released, and was asked to come back to prison and turn himself in again. He just turned himself back in at the Al Keenan Detention Center. We're working to learn more details on that, but I do want to bring in Pastor Thomas Dixon. Pastor, this comes less than 24 hours after Mr. Hunt met with law enforcement here in the city of Charleston. How are you feeling about this right now?
That's the irony of the situation, is that we spent yesterday, first off, talking about unity, peace, how we can work together, law enforcement.
Listen to this. Listen what they did. This is the...
multi-agencies working together with the community in order to bring peace and to make sure that we don't have the situations repeat themselves as of going around. All
right, so I'm gonna stop it there. That's all I want to do, right? Because this ain't about bashing Dixon, and it ain't about bashing Justin either. But this is what the mistake was. Y'all sat down with law enforcement. Y'all sat down and they had some fugazi meeting the other day. I knew about it, right? They had some fugazi meeting the other day. They corralled all the blacks and all the whoever's, right? And I no shade to anybody in the room. It ain't personal, but I don't know if y'all knew what y'all walked into, because a cop is gonna cop, right? So y'all went into that meeting that day, and you're in a room with multiple agencies to talk about unity. I don't know why you talking about unity with a cop, but anyway, unifying with law enforcement. And again, I said this on Rayshawn. Shout out Rayshawn. I'd be saying your name wrong, but shout out to Rayshawn. y'all saw that interview I did with on his show, on his platform. You know, we get lulled into this false sense of security with proximity. Sometimes it feels good to be the chosen one. Sometimes it feels good to be. And I don't want to assume that was their currency, but it feels like why else would you be in that room? And like what from history is telling you that you need to go sit at a table built on a table built on your bones, made of your bones, right? You need to go sit at a table. Shout out Candace for that. You need to go sit at a table with people whose interests are not aligned with your interests, whose interests are not aligned with yours. They don't want policing to be curbed. They don't want their budgets touched. They don't want their pensions or anything like that touched. They don't want accountability, right? Because if they wanted accountability, we'd see accountability, right? We'd see dash cam release like we did with the Ohio shooting, with the tragic shooting of Micaiah Bryant. How quickly, within hours, they released that. That's transparency. That's real transparency, right? They don't want to give us that, right? They're not going to give it. I think from what I understand, from what I understand, what was said in the room, Sheriff Graziano went on record as saying that she was not going to release any more information or footage about the Jamal Sutherland case, right? I think she went on record saying she wasn't going to do that because of one reason or another. I'm not going to get into that, but I think that's what she said. She intimated that. So you're in a room full of people who hold all the cards, and your very presence in that room is a compromise. Is a compromise. Right. So to me, it's really hustling backwards. I don't know what they thought. Right. So you thought going into that room, you didn't think you were going to be surveilled in that room. You didn't think you don't think you were going to be, they were trying to gauge where you at. You you didn't think that this full complement of law enforcement across several agencies, you didn't think that they were going to, that wasn't a show of strength and force? Or you thought they were inviting you in because they fear you? They don't fear you. They don't fear. They don't fear me. They don't fear them. They don't fear. So like you being in that room serve them. And if you don't know the dynamics before you get in the room, if you don't go in there with a lawyer, because if I even said, you know what, I'm gonna go in this room just to scope it out, I'm going in there with a lawyer, and somebody gonna have to make some kind of assurances in that room. And was the meeting recorded? My dude, y'all, what was y'all doing in there? I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna show you the approach I think I would have taken. Now let me bring that up. Let me see. All right, hold up. All right, let me not the approach. But these are the voice. So this is what the voice is. Evelyn, you're saying meeting with the police will not inoculate you from arresting you. That's one thing. Violence is at the core. Violence is the core tool. This is in Twitch, y'all. For those watching other places in Twitch, we're seeing same facade saying violence is the core tool and method of police and law that to enforce laws. So I'm not sure how you seek the peace with an institution like that. Absolutely. They'll meet with you and talk to squash any rebellion. Absolutely. Or issues. But if that doesn't work, trust me, the riot shields and batons come out. That's for sure. Right. So let me show y'all where like going back to like our early comments from like Jessica and Exchange, like engage people who actually craft this legislation. Engage people who actually craft these laws that actually dictate how the police move, right? How law enforcement move. Don't engage the police. That's a surveillance. At the very basic minimum, that meeting was to surveil y'all. It was to get names, and who's going to be willing, who's more likely to play ball, who's a serious threat, who's not, right? Shit, I don't even know if they ran y'all shit in the parking lot. I don't know where y'all met, but did they you don't even know if they ran your clocking your vehicle, clocking who you came with. It's just not a good look. It puts you in a precarious position, right? Again, this ain't personal. It's just like, y'all, we gotta start reading and organize before we move. We have to have, and not just a phone call with people like, yeah, you going, yeah, I'm going. Da, da. It gotta be actual, like, okay, pros and cons if we go. Okay. And like, that's when you call somebody like me who is an asshole, right? Right? But one thing I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'm not gonna waste your time. Even if you call me like, Mika, I don't really fuck with you, I don't really like your attitude, but you know this policing thing. What do you think we should do? Don't take the meeting? Well, how are we gonna don't take the meeting, right? So let me show you how, like, what we should be pushing for at the basic level. This is this is kind of response from our local elected officials. We should be hearing this. This is how it should be moving here.
By Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther. Mayor, you previously were with us in a previous shooting took place there in Columbus. There was a lot of confusion on that 911 phone call. Has it been established that it was Ms. Bryant who called 911 for assistance?
We're rolling.
Okay. So I just want you to, that's the mayor, right? The mayor of Columbus. I wanted to fast forward, I think, the second question. Let's see.
I can't confirm that. I believe that she,
Let me see.
Do you know if he also had a taser?
All of our officers are outfitted with multiple tools. And so I don't know if he had a taser on him at that moment. That's something that I think will be confirmed by the investigation. But all of our officers, as you know, in our previous conversations, body-worn cameras were my top priority when I was running for mayor back in
Not a big fan of body cameras. I already told y'all that, like, forever. But listen, like how we're talking about this, right?
2015, and we implemented for the first time in the city's history body-worn cameras on all of our officers by the end of 2016.
Now he's also trying to, save his neck, but just listen.
And in fact, after the death of Andre Hill, we are making a significant new investment to upgrade our body-worn camera technology because we believe that it helps with accountability on both sides of the camera. And
okay, so this is the other part, right? He's acknowledging that people are going to be filming this, right? And he's acknowledging that the cameras at least can give you some semblance of accountability, right? Keep listening. We don't have any leadership talking like this. You have them talking around things. You don't have any elected officials and even making this, saying this. If this makes any sense to y'all, I know I sound real specific, but just keep listening.
And it gives us the ability to be more transparent when things like this happen, to get that footage out to the public.
Get that footage out. We definitely don't have that. We have law enforcement offices, departments. The Charleston PD is saying, now we're going to hide behind SLED. And we know what SLED does. Shout out to Jessica. Jessica, I'm going to call you Jessica now. Jessica, you gave me a subscription to the Washington Post. So I renewed that. I used to have it, but bills. Like, I got like 18 streaming subscriptions. Thank you so much. I'm bringing that up because I was able to go back and read the reporting from Radley Balco. All this reporting, a series, like a laundry list of reporting on South Carolina and SLED, right? And how they move, right? And so this is intentional when Charleston PD throws their investigation to SLED, when Sheriff Graziano throws the investigation to SLED, it's a way to sidestep true accountability and transparency. How many times in that video when I showed you after Jason Cooper was shot, how many times did Chief Reynolds say the word transparency? Yet, as SLED closes their investigation, you have yet to release the dash cam footage. Scarlett Wilson has yet to release the dash cam footage from that incident. Right? Transparency. What did we see with Ma'Khia Bryant's death? Within 4 hours? Was it 4 hours? We saw that officer's body cam footage released, right? This is what we're fighting for, right? His reporting is dope. You put me on. Shout out. That's the kind of, shout out for that. His reporting is dope. And he got a book coming out too about warrior cops. Oh, we reading that. but his his journalism, it's in the opinion section, but his reporting on South Carolina law enforcement is thorough, right? And so anyway, all that to say that it tells you and shows you how SLED moves. This is what we should be fighting for. This is how we fight. This is how we wage our battles against law enforcement. You have to start telling these lawmakers, y'all got to craft better legislation that protects people, because the people who are put in place to enforce the law, right? Law enforcement, they don't know how to answer anything without violence, without extrajudicial killings being an option for them. So we need the laws to be better. While we going to law enforcement, we need to go to the laws, right? Does that make sense in a very basic way, right?
So they can see actually what happened on the scene.
We don't know what happened with Jason Cooper. Y'all telling me he shot first. I need to see it. Y'all telling me he shot first. Just show me. And show me how you try to de-escalate that before you killed him, before you shot him in the head and shot him in the thigh. Did one cop shoot him or did two cops shoot him? Was he shot when he was upstairs and he come down? Like, what's going on? Show us so we know what's going on.
And so all of the things, a lot of the questions you may have, I know will be finalized and investigated fully by BCI.
Okay, so that's the mayor of Columbus talking about transparency, and actually in this specific instance, in this one specific instance, in terms of how quickly they released that not just the officer that shot and killed Micaiah, but they released the other responding officers. They released dash and body cams, I believe, from the other officers who responded as well. Because let's get out in front of this. We're not hiding anything. They're not making a mistake that old girl in Chicago made, which is I'm gonna lie to the public about how the cops kicked in this black woman's door while she was naked. I'm gonna lie to the public about what happened behind Adam Toledo, and then paint him as some sort of vicious, villainous gang member, right? He's not making the mistakes that old Lightfoot is making over there in Chicago. He's getting out in front of it and stop believing he not, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not gonna let his law enforcement who make a mistake, he ain't falling behind them. If he gonna take a L, and they gonna be behind them, some lying ass cops and some blue wall who showed up to the who showed up. One of the cops wore a mask that say Blue Lives Matter. Then one of the other cops who were at the scene berate people who are upset in the community, and they shout Blue Lives Matter. So, oh no, we're not going, if I'm gonna take a L as the mayor, it ain't gonna be behind no lying ass Blue Lives Matter bullshit. It ain't gonna be behind no blue wall. If I'm gonna take a L, it's gonna be on some other logistical shit, but it ain't gonna be me lying and hiding and doing the work of the police. We're not doing that no more, right? So you want at least a mayor to talk that way. I don't know what the dynamics are. I'm not an Ohioan. I don't live in Columbus, nothing like that, right? At the most, I got a friend who got family out there, right? But I do know this dude getting out and going to a Roland Martin, going to a black digital news outlet and saying off the rep, like, this is, here the tape. Here y'all go. Boom. What y'all think? Public opinion, right? We need to be fighting for that. We need to be fighting for that. That's how I feel like we should start with this battle should be started. It ain't at no table with no cops who already lying about Jamal Sutherland, who already lying about countless other stops, right? Already lying about that. We're not talking to cops who lie routinely. We're not doing that, who falsify records and reports. We're not talking to them. No, we're not at no table with them. No, you're not clocking me. You're not getting all my vital information. You're not seeing who I come in the room with. I ain't dressing up and putting on no tie, no dress for you. No, y'all crooked. It's a non-starter. No, y'all killing us at a time where law enforcement is being questioned. This is the same thing with Harry Griffin. There was an argument saying, well, we need to talk to Harry Griffin. We need to talk to Harry Griffin and get him I'm like, he's on the ropes. If this was like Mortal Kombat or a fight game, his energy, his bars would be down to the red. Like he's like, it's finish him. Mortal Kombat. Like, why would y'all want to talk him back to health? Why would you want to talk him back to political viability? Right? Like, so if law enforcement, this is global conversation. If there's a global conversation about whether or not we really need this type of policing in America or in the world, why the fuck are we talking to police about how to get y'all better? No, it's a global conversation question. Like, you know what? I don't know if we need a cop in the school, if they just gonna slam the little girl in the desk for not giving over her cell phone. I don't know if I need a cop on my campus. I don't know. Do we need a cop there? Do we need cops having summer camp programs and putting kids in vans like Freddie Gray? Do we? True story, Charleston PD. Do we need cops with ice cream trucks? Shout out Evelyn for put me onto that little tidbit. Do we need cops doing Parks and Rec and book drives and shit? Or should we just pay teachers more? Should we just make sure our libraries are funded? Should we make sure our black churches who do programs and do Meals on Wheels, should we just make sure they all right? Nah, let's give the cops more millions. I don't get that. Finish him. It's law enforcement. They on the ropes. A global discussion about policing and what it looks like. In a country that disproportionately jails, we had a quarter of the world's jail population? That's us. That's our distinction. And we at tables? If y'all wasn't in there to flip a table off and act a fool, I would have started. That's the one thing. If I would have took that meeting, it would have been to have a rally right in there. That's what it would have been. It would have been to have a rally right in there. I also want to fast forward because in this conversation, one of the sitting city council people, a councilwoman, she spoke about the city council's response to the Columbus City Council's response to this murder, this extrajudicial killing of a 16-year-old child. So let me see if we can get into that real quick. Oh yeah, cops and ice cream trucks. I got the picture
here because the questions that we are raising are the questions that I have been seeing all night that people are asking. Yes, split second decision, 22 seconds, but at the end of the day, somebody's dead.
Right. Let me first set the scene and extend my condolences to the family of Miss Bryant. The role that Columbus City Council would play, we acted very swiftly after the murder of George Floyd, launching our Reimagining Safety public initiative.
Now, I don't know anything about that initiative. I don't know if it's successful. I don't know what people on the ground have to say about it, but it's a response. And I'm sure it wasn't a commission it wasn't just a commission that wasn't funded. But let's just keep hearing. I don't know. I can't say I'm not sure, but let's just keep listening to the response. 'Cause I felt like this response was full throated, and it was something unlike what I see here in where I'm at here in Charleston,
where we promoted alternative crisis responses and violence prevention, very quickly enacted legislation around no-knock warrants and prohibiting hate group affiliation, demilitarizing our police. But what we're seeing tonight, what that video demonstrates to me, that we must elevate our alternative crisis response system. And
when have you heard that language, alternative crisis response? When have you heard that verbiage used here, right? By any sitting member, sitting council person, right? Or mayor, right?
Columbus. Right now, we have a mobile crisis response team where an officer is paired with a mental health specialist. It's imperative that we scale that model in order to...
Because obviously that's not who arrived on the scene at the Ma'Khia Bryant situation. If they got that, it needs to be scaled. It needs to be funded, right?
Make it more accessible to our residents. I keep thinking about the fact that our crisis intervention specialists, our community-based intervention specialists, our administrators, our teachers, they are trained in de-escalation. And thinking about the fact that she was a child, and what we keep seeing over and over again is the adultification of Black girls. That means that Black girls are punished more harshly.
I've been talking about that for years. I even presented that in 2 different separate presentations on the campus of CFC about the adultification of Black girls and how their bodies are policed differently, right? It's real, not just Black girls, brown girls as well, right? How our bodies are sexualized, how our bodies are treated and just viewed differently, right? We've seen it. You go to King Street, young white girls can go screaming through the streets, drunk, belligerent, screaming. But I venture to say if a group of Black women went down the street yelling, screaming, hollering, I don't think it would be ignored the way we ignored other bodies. I know those were talking about adults and whatnot, but in terms of just being Black in general, Black tends to draw a lot more eyes. But I just wanted to show that response from both the mayor and city council, right? Things that we probably could see more of here. This is the author. This is Radley Balco. This is the opinion journalist with the Washington Post who wrote this great, if you go back, it's like 2018 and he goes back, I think, to 2015. But there's a series of stories on South Carolina policing. He has a book coming out called The Rise of the Warrior Cop. I just think it's just a really interesting voice in this conversation about the militarization of police forces around the country, right? So that's who that is. Again, shout out Jessica. Thank you so much. All right, let me see what we got here. I'm gonna go back to my tabs here and we're gonna close this out here. I think we're done with this. Let me go back to history. Right. And I know that was like a little bit of a harsh critique, but I really just need y'all to understand I have a responsibility to move right too, not be perfect, but I have a responsibility to model certain behavior. And I want y'all to see pay attention to what you don't see on my page. Pay attention to who you don't see me standing next to. That's usually an indication of like where my politics are. And I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not asking for purity or anything like that. I can't risk getting locked up behind foolishness. I'll get locked up behind something rational. I'll get locked up behind something righteous. Like that. That's something that a risk I assume as an activist, right? And I've been out there, and there's certain risks I would take, right? Not even just arrest, but violence from the alt-right and all that other stuff. But there's some things I think are avoidable. I think there's some mistakes that are avoidable, and I think some mistakes it's shaped from hubris, or I don't know what it is. I don't want to assume the worst, but there's some mistakes that we're making in this local movement space. Oh, case in point, I brought this up in my stories yesterday. This shit pissed me off. Let me see if I can get back to one of these protest stories. This pissed me off. Let me see. Let me just go back to the front page. I think. Let me see. I'll go real quick. Yeah, right here. All right, so I'm gonna go here. Come on. Right. Let me see if it gives me. So this is the story we just talked about. No, hold up. I'm gonna click. This is the older story, but let me see if they give me a suggestion for hold on. I'm just trying to. Nope. It's amazing how Pastor Dixon is like the face of some of this work. It's amazing how we're giving Pastor Dixon a lot of space that I don't think he needs. I just don't. I don't know if it's because he's an older gentleman. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't really. There's no abolitionist framework. Hold on one second. This is the worst. You know what? Fuck it. My bad. Here we go. I always do this shit. Pardon me. I know y'all say take your time sometimes. But hold on. Let me just go to my shit. Sorry for cursing. Not really. All right. So in my stories, right, yesterday, posted a lot of Micaiah Bryant stuff. And then, so I took this screenshot. So this was in yesterday's paper. And so these were just out of like 7 photos. This was like number 6. So at the protest, right, after I left, I guess this happened because this damn sure didn't happen within shot of me. But so demonstrators gathered. And so it says in the caption that a jogger, a black runner who stopped by the demonstration, I guess asked this young lady who I'm obscuring her identity, her name and her face. We don't do, this is not it. This is not it. This is what this cosplay, this type of stuff. Like, where is the discipline in some of these planned actions? What are we doing by writing on a black man's body, even if it's positive things? Tell me how this serves to be like this. This got published. Tell me how this makes sense. And I thought we deaded that cosplay shit that popped up last year. Remember when they had a group of actors, black people, with a white slave with makeup on and chains around his neck and body, and we were like, we shouted that demonstration out of that space. Like, we don't do that. This is not, we don't perform our oppression. We don't demean, or we don't use our bodies like in this way. Like, I don't know what this was about. Like, of writing these messages on a black body. Like, our bodies are already, I just don't get that. And I know people are like, well, Tamika, it's pro-black. It literally says pro. No, this is performative. This is not effective. This is offensive. This is like the histrionics that are distracting. The news will pay more attention to this as opposed to the core message. And the core message should be around, how do we change policing in Charleston, right? How do we examine what it looks like, how it evolved at its roots, right? Slave patrols at its root. How do we have this complete conversation about policing without doing things like this? And I'm not being like too hard on that. I thought we stopped with the cosplay stuff. I thought we stopped performing our oppression for white eyes. Anybody else kind of feel a way about that, or that y'all cool? Like, nah, that ain't that big of a deal. Mark up that man body. Like, to me, that's just a spectacle, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. So I just feel like I wish that some of our spaces had more discipline, to where we could kind of, I don't even care about that. But anyway, I don't know. Thank you, Jazz. Be like quiet in the classroom. I wanted to bring it back here. Yeah. I wanted to bring it back to this article here. This is from last year. This was me just going back over the consequences of what happened last year, right? Going back over with the fallout of what happened last year. We know about the federal cases that are pending. Oh, this was me looking at the Radley Balco reporting here. But yeah, so I wanted to get into, again, I fell down that Peter McCoy rabbit hole this morning when he used to work for the Department of Justice. But this is last year, right? Last year too, in terms of the discipline. What do you want public, right? What do you want in these spaces that might be recorded by police? How disciplined is your message? How discreet are you with your messaging and your strategy, right? What is out there? Why does that matter? Because when the uprisings occurred both in Charleston and in Columbia, we saw, shout out to Letitia, who put me onto this initially, we saw the Department of Justice not only like completely just jump in there, led by Peter McCoy, right? Led by Peter McCoy. We saw this really robust response to what happened, and what you saw at the bottom of this press release from DOJ. I feel like there were other clips here, but I might be mistaken. But what you saw was let me just play this. Let me see if it plays. Where is it at? Oh, So this is what you saw. So here, they're making case. This is a federal case. And remember, Attorney General Barr called Chief Reynolds, Charleston PD Chief Reynolds, right? And they got together and supported also by the mayor. They got the support of the Trump administration. You know the Trump administration's views on law and order. You knew ahead of an election, you know what the response was going to be to protest, right? So the response to protest was going to be severe. So what do the cops do? What do the DOJ do? Do they got vans out there? Maybe. Do they got like all these kind of fancy tools and toys? Maybe. Like telescopic lenses and microphones and all that? Maybe. But you know what they got? Let me show you what they got. They got y'all. Hold on. Hold on, y'all can't see that. Hold on, let me move this over. I don't know why it's not playing over here. Hold on a second. It's playing on my screen. I can't. Come on. Nope, not letting me do it. Let me see. Hold up. This is really here we go. Jesus Christ. All right, what they got, they don't have to have all those fancy tools. They got our social media. That's why with these Jazz, we were just talking about this, Jazz, about being disciplined and on message when you have a protest action. Because you got this dude, somebody, remember they broke into, I think this is in Colombia. They got into that cop car. And took that cop's stuff. I don't know why you be fool enough to put on a cop jacket. Why would you want to put on a cop jacket? But this is all social media. So they're not making cases off like some sophisticated CSI shit. It's just what we say publicly. It's out here what we say at rallies and what we say at protests. This all from social media. So this dude facing, and I'm not trying to put him out there like that, but this is public information. This dude is facing, he got federally indicted on this shit. Not no local shit, a federal indictment.
That's not Yo! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh fucking shit! Yo! Bitch! They got the knife!
Right? All right. So like what we say publicly matters, what we do publicly. And what I want to go back to that reporting real quick, about like just let's making sure like who we sitting at the table with. So that's who you sitting at the table with. You're sitting at the table with I don't know if Chief Reynolds was in the room. I'm assuming somebody from CPD was there. You're sitting at the table with somebody who worked in concert with Attorney General William Barr, right? To come down and use what was the law that they cited? The anti-riot, let me see what it was specifically, because there was some pushback. There was some pushback later on from the courts because no. Right, crackdown. So this is it, crackdown. Trump. I'm gonna enlarge this a little bit more. So this is following up on the indictments that happened after last year's protest. All right. Cracking down. Trump has pledged for months to bring federal intervention to bear to squash turbulence in the nation's streets. Barr has been in close lockstep with the president, right? And so then we saw William Barr engage our local police enforcement, right? And say, okay, we're gonna prosecute these folks to the fullest extent of the law, right? All right. So it says the next day, McCoy, our then U.S. attorney, McCoy issued similar calls to action, saying that his office would work with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, and they did. They followed through on that promise. Local law enforcement agencies to protect citizens, First Amendment rights, right? Protecting community, while protecting communities from violence and whatnot. It says, and so they were prosecuting people both federally and locally. So they were doing that. Here we go. So they were trying to do this whole anti-riot law, use whatever anti-riot laws were on the books, using that, again, prosecuting people to the fullest extent, right? Prosecuting people to the fullest extent. This is working with the federal government, y'all. This is what the people y'all sitting at the table with is doing, right? Did last year. So they did that, and to the point where the Fourth U.S. Circuit of Court of Appeals pared back some of the anti-riot laws, finding that it treads too far upon constitutionally protected speech in some of its applications. So the Trump administration was going so hard, went so ham, and prosecuting these folks for participating in the uprisings that there was some pushback at certain levels, at certain court levels, right? But this is who you sitting down with. You tell me how to reform this. So instead of that, let's appeal to our lawmakers. Let's appeal to people who craft the laws that these folks enforce. Let's really find where our real leverage is. And the other thing is, again, speaking last night with Candace Livingston, Candace was a prominent figure here in the Low Country, as whether it's through discourse on social media, whether it's through her being an educator in classrooms, her literally taking to the streets alongside me and others, right? Other women, Courtney Hicks and all that, right? Candace is an avowed abolitionist and a thorough one, right? So I did my digging last night and this morning, and that's another group that I bang with. And so Candace put me onto this little PDF right here, right? So this PDF here is like, so what we're seeing from a lot of the organizers on the ground now, we're seeing them move in this red area, right? This is where I used to be, right? Well, I never was pro body cameras because I always knew that was surveillance on us. I'm like, we need body cams to record them, right? But, and I'm not trying to be pure, like, but I was with some of these things, like not too long ago, civilian oversight, right? That's something that we need, and so we evaluate all these measures that, and they typically, you'll see law enforcement and those who are about reform who don't want to alienate the police, right? They don't want to anger voters who are pro-police, right? They're going to suggest and prescribe these recommendations here. More body cameras, right? Right? And so what does that do with police funding? Does it reduce police funding? No, it increases it, right? Like I talked about this yesterday at length. So even when they sign in body cameras into law, they're supposed to fund it. So that could potentially increase funding at whatever level of police or wherever you live, right? So it increases funding, right? Does it challenge the notion that police, does it challenge the notion that police increase safety? No, body cameras don't challenge that. So you just run through this PDF, right? So community policing, there are drawbacks to that. More training. We already see what happens with more training. Old girl who shot Dante Wright was on the force for 26 years. She was training other cops while she killed that boy behind a traffic stop. So we know more training isn't going to do anything, right? Civilian review. No, why not? Why not civilian review? In some cases, there would be an increase in funding, whereas in other cases, there would be no change, right? And okay, so then other things, jail to killer cops. Like, we don't call for jail, right? I said that yesterday on live as well, right? Chauvin being behind bars is injustice at all. So what do you do instead? What should our activist base out here in Charleston be advocating for instead? Some suggestions, right? Again, shout out Candace for this. What should we do? Like, we got the officer who killed Micaiah Bryant. He on paid leave. He's on paid administrative leave, right? And I believe the councilwoman that I played a clip from earlier from the Roland Martin show, I believe she even said that has to be something more than that. If she didn't say, another panelist said it, right? So he's on. I'm about to knock over my ring light. So he's on paid vacation, right? So that's a no-go, right? So no suspending, like so like well. So stop using paid leave when these cops do something wrong, right? Some other suggestions, right? Withhold pensions and don't rehire cops involved in excessive force. The cop that killed Tamir Rice went on and got another job close by, right? Require cops to be liable for misconduct settlements, right? Cops to be liable, not tax-paying citizens, right? Cap overtime accrual and overtime payment in military exercises. Cap that shit. That's something we could be advocating for. Withdraw participation in police militarization programs. Prioritize spending on community, health, education, and affordable housing. Make a commitment to those things as opposed to more toys for cops. Reduce the size of police force. That's something that's radical. Now, and I'm admitting this is something we ain't, like, no one's talking about this here. Not at the ground, so it's not a groundswell for this. But this is what we should be talking about. And none of this requires you to sit down with a cop. Quite the opposite. You're sitting down with people who actually craft the laws, if that makes any sense to y'all, right? Let me look at the chat. I missed a couple things in the chat on Twitch. Jessica, you were just responding like, oh man, some footage isn't for public consumption. Yeah, sometimes like remember when Jazz came on? On last week, and we interviewed her, and I interviewed her, and she was like, she went up to the press and like, you're not printing that, you're not recording that. You need people like that in these spaces because they're literally building cases off your social media. So when you're out in Charleston and you're on social media and you taking credit for the rally, you're doing the police work. You might as well put a badge on. You might as well put a badge on and put a donut in your hand. Cause you're doing the work for them. You out there claiming. When that cop came up to me the other day before yesterday, when that cop came up to me and was like, "Are you the leader?" I don't know and then he said, "Who's the leader?" I don't know who the leader was. You think I'm gonna turn around and say who the leader was of the action? I don't know. Are you the leader? I don't even know my name. What's this? And you ask questions. I'm under arrest. You detaining me? And what else did I do? I asked a bunch of people to come and cloak me as he questions me. Right? That's the other thing I did too. And I asked him for clarity. I restated his questions to me. I restated them back then. Like, you don't confirm or deny shit. Answer questions with questions. God damn it. Don't get on there and talk about this my rally and stuff. Nah. And if that sound harsh, I ain't trying to hurt feelings. I'm just trying to tell you, like, because we done did this. We done been there, done that. We done made mistakes. We done went out there and implicated ourselves, right? We saw it last year. Let me go to the actual, go back to the, was this it? Let me see. Yeah, this. Right, this press release came out in September. Like, they literally like use our social media, and not only that, the cops is filming. The other thing here, right here, this clip right here, the cops is filming things. I could have sworn they had a Post and Courier link here, because I remember I was pissed because they used the front page of the Post and Courier. They used an image that looked like it was the front page of the Post and Courier. So anyway, they building cases off social media, and I know that means like, well, damn, how do you not record the actions? You definitely need your cell phones out. You definitely need to be recording your action. You definitely need that, but just be careful what you say and what you do on camera. And if you're going to antagonize law enforcement, like, I ain't even anti that. Like, just if you do it, just know the inherent risks that come with that. People around you who are organizing need to know that you've done that. If that's okay with the group. Hey, we're going to take an antagonistic approach to this action today. We're going to have 3 agitators, go at the police verbally. Okay, cool. What are the safety? What are we doing to keep other people safe from any fallout from that? That should be the conversation, right? So if you're I'm not antagonizing the cops. Believe me, I done called cops to their face pigs. I done called out badge numbers in their face with a bullhorn, all that, right? But if you're gonna do that, make sure you know the fallout. And one thing about police, I'll say this. Just like that cop that pulled me aside the other day, I'll say this about our local police. They'll tell you you're gonna get arrested. They'll tell you. More than likely, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. They'll tell you, don't throw that. Don't go there. Don't do that. Don't do this. If you do that, it's going to lead to this. They'll tell you. I'll tell you that. If I'm going to give local law enforcement anything, I'm going to give them that. They will tell you. If you do this, you're going to get that. So if you know that, what do we have in place to keep folks safe? What do we have how do we prevent an arrest, right? And sometimes arrest is unavoidable, but make sure you're getting arrested behind something that makes sense. But if you sit down at the table and you thinking that mean that they take you serious? They really just gauging, like, they just sizing you up. It's like, they just sizing you up. That's it. The last thing I want to leave y'all with is that we saw the response from the federal level. This is just from ABC News. I think this is just their 24-hour. They pull clips and I guess anchors and all that from all around the country. I wanted to play part of the current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, his response to the Chauvin verdict, which I thought was a watershed moment in history. So I wanted to play that.
Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. In today's update, Attorney General Merrick Garland has announced the Department of Justice will investigate the Minneapolis Police Department. The announcement comes after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all counts in the murder of George Floyd. Crowds across the country erupted in cheers as that verdict was announced. And the Floyd family themselves burst into tears as they heard the news. Now the Justice Department will examine whether the Minneapolis Police Department, among other things, has a systemic problem with using excessive force and discriminatory practices.
Y'all hear that? Excessive force and discriminatory practices. Who else got that problem? North Charleston and Charleston PD.
Here's more on that investigation from the Attorney General.
Like so many of you, I have closely watched the events in Minnesota. Although the state's prosecution was successful, I know that nothing can fill the void that the loved ones of George Floyd have felt since his death. My heart goes out to them and to all those who have experienced similar loss. I know such wounds have deep roots, and that too many communities have experienced those wounds firsthand. Yesterday's verdict in the state criminal trial does not address potentially systemic policing issues in Minneapolis. The Justice Department has opened a civil investigation to determine whether the Minneapolis Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing.
Okay, so I thought that on Twitter, I think it's Imani Gandhi. She went on, she had this awesome thread about what this means, what this federal intervention means. Imani. I think it's, yeah, here she goes down here. Yeah, I think it was about descent decrees yesterday. Descent decrees. Let me see if we can get, because she's a very active tweeter, so you know what that means. Oh, y'all, did y'all see Tucker Carlson lose his mind the other night? Jesus, he lost his mind. Like, he's such, like, oh my God, he lost his fucking mind. All right, let me see real quick where this thread is with descent decrees. 18 hours ago. Yes, here it is right here. So this was interesting. I advise y'all to go check this out on Twitter. Imani Gandhi, she's senior editor, law and policy with Rewire News Group, right? Just a really interesting legal mind here. And so she said she wrote this. I wrote this thread about descent decrees between police departments and the DOJ and why they aren't effective. Some people have said the thread is informative, so she's retweeting it. So I went back into it. Right here, this right here. So it says, in the wake of killing Mike Brown, she wrote an explainer about descent decrees, whatnot. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, which Congress passed in the wake of the LAPD officer assaulting Rodney King, permits the Department of Justice to file lawsuits against a city police department who engage in a pattern or practice of violating a citizen's constitutional rights. So now we see that Merrick Garland is weighing in. This is probably what he's going to draw from to determine, what's going on there, right? All right. Lawsuits are a pain in the ass, so the DOJ usually offers them to enter into a consent decree with the offending police department. The consent decree is essentially a settlement agreement requiring the police department to enact reforms, bias training, all that bullshit, bench warrants, dash cam, all that bullshit, right? The police department agrees to implement these reforms, and the DOJ will assign a judge to enforce the consent decree. So after a certain number of years, the police department has to demonstrate that they have complied. Like, okay, we ain't gonna do this fuck shit no more. We're not gonna pull you over based on race. We're not gonna kill you for bullshit like weed and all that other stuff, right? So but usually the consent decree will give the police department up to 5 years to get their shit together, right? Here's the problem though. After the police departments enact reform, the judge or independent monitor assesses compliance and the consent decree, and thinks that, oh, okay, everything's cool, nothing's here. Then the police departments backslide. So that's what we can look like. That's something you could that's something to watch for. I don't know if y'all could have read all that, but that's something to watch for. I don't know if that was big enough. I'm sorry if that was really small. I should have looked first. But that's something that we should watch for as, you said avoid anything talk about. Yeah. There's something we can watch for. Like, so as Merrick Garland engages these local police departments, specifically jumps into the Minneapolis situation, look out for these consent decrees. I could blame it on braces, but I ain't. It's not that. Keep an eye on that and see how this pattern, and we see it even here at the local level. Oh, there's an audit. We do the audit. We find that there's bias. We hire somebody like Wendy Shriver. She comes up with a Domino's pizza tracker, and all these other things. It's just a bunch of presentations. There's really no real meat or substance to any of her suggestions or recommendations. And then it gives the appearance of complying to some of these recommendations. Then everybody turns around and goes back to festivals, shucking oysters and all the other shit, and nobody really pays attention. So be careful. I wanted to show y'all that low key, high key. I wanted to show y'all that police ice cream truck. Let me see if I can find it from my Twitter. Let me see. Gadsden police. I wanted to show that. Thank you, Evelyn, again, because I found it. I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah, here we go. So yeah, like, Evelyn, you put me on to this. This was an event. Like, y'all, we don't need cops doing this shit. We don't need this. Coming into the summer. If I see this goddamn police van rolling around here, giving out fucking ice pops and chili bears, if I see this shit, I'm gonna lose my mind. So I'm gonna sign off now, but I'm gonna sign off. But this stuff gotta stop, right? And when we say defund the police, this is what we talking about. We're talking about the nonsense. We're talking about, we can skim a little bit of that mess over there and give it back to the people who actually want to run. Maybe they want to run an athletic league in the city. Maybe they want to have a basketball tournament. Maybe they want to have a t-ball tournament, softball tournament. Maybe somebody wants to host have kids sell fucking ice cream. Have an entrepreneur program. Maybe you want to do something where you have a cookout and the city sponsored activities where counselors and educators and people who care about kids can actually run these programs, not pull up on your block surveilling you and your family with some damn cool cops bullshit. Like, come on. I think they did a cop ice cream truck in Columbia too. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they pulled out all the cop stops. Oh my God, it's just crazy. So I hope this stream made sense. It was long. Where can we find that? Abolish? Oh, I can get at me on Instagram. I will give you the I don't think I got the. I download this a PDF, and you can DM me on Instagram. I'll give you that graphic. That's where we should be working from now. That's where we start, and we start with Durham Beyond Policing in North Carolina. Shout out to BVM. BVM used to support and subsidize efforts to host expungement camps, expungement clinics rather. Right? Shout out to Letitia Amara, who runs that here in the state here. But like there are entities out here who are willing to subsidize this work and willing to teach and show people how to really organize around these issues. You don't need to rely on law enforcement. You don't need to rely on law enforcement for it. That's designed to size you up, and that's designed to also intimidate you, especially if it's a bunch of cops in there. And if they're recording you and they doing all that, man, it's a non-starter, yo. You can't go there, but it's what it is. So chill out with the cop again and stop giving these cops attention. Starve these asses. Starve their asses. Stop giving them attention. They don't deserve your presence. They don't deserve your presence. Nope. Yeah. Start looking at what other states do around policing, around reforms. I'm gonna blow this up and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave for real. I gotta go to work. Start looking at what other organizations do. Right? This text right here, this whole text here. What they responded to: Durham Police Department request, context, mass incarceration, criminal unlivable context, right? Start looking at people who actually put in a lot of resources to fight this issue of over policing in our communities. Look at our immigration advocates, what they do to fight ICE. Look at some of those tactics, right? Somerville PD has an ice cream truck too. It's called the Paddy Wagon. Oh, Lord have mercy. Fuck. All right, y'all. Yeah. Yeah. All right, y'all. Yeah. It's still defund the police. They killing us, y'all. I don't know if y'all seen the news. They killing us. So not even asking questions. Shout out to those who engaged with my content on Instagram yesterday. It's an old cliche, but someone wrote it again, and it's so true. What was the cliche? Oh God, I'm gonna butcher it. if your only weapon is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's law enforcement right now, right? They're responding with violence. So, all right, y'all. I'm out. Let me go get to work. Talk to y'all later. Thank y'all so much for your support. See you tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. for that spicy talk. Bye.